Oh, love, love. It's all about love. And this is our last Sunday in February, the month of love. This is a month we've been focusing on the power of love. That power that is beyond emotion, beyond any kind of dualistic notion of love and its opposite. This love is a power and a presence. It's all around us and within us. It's really the only power in the universe. That's what we've been talking about. We talked about this vibrational field of love. Do you remember that is a dimension of our being? And with my talk, Good Vibrations, a couple weeks ago, we actually experienced entering that and immersing ourselves in that vibrational field of love. And that's when we do that, we're entering that creative field that it is limitless, it's infinite potential, and it is responsive to our thought. So that's where we want to bring our visioning and our visualization and our affirmative prayer work. And then we talked about this idea of being a loving presence, being love in the world. Reverend Rosemary introduced this idea last week. A lot of people sort of are looking for love in all the wrong places. Looking for somebody to love them, like they think that's the thing that's missing in their life, right? That's pretty common. All the love songs are about that, except for that one. And when really it's about the act of loving, of being loving, that makes us whole, that gives our life meaning. More than being loved, we need to love because we are love expressing. And, just looking at young children, the children are our future. Just looking at young children sort of proves that. Really young children. And, why do we give young children dolls and stuffed animals? The dolls and stuffed animals don't love them. They're inanimate. The children need something to love. They need something in addition to their parents and their family, they constantly need to share their love, to express their love. It's a vital part of who they are. And they shower those little stuffed animals with oodles and oodles of love. And God forbid they should ever lose one. I remember a time, anybody who has had children, you probably can tell a story or two. Well, ours, when I think that our twin girls were about 5 years old, and we were living in Los Angeles, and we took a trip to Catalina Island. And Olivia was holding her favorite stuffed animal at the time. It was this white dog, and she just loved that thing. And we were standing kind of at a cliff overlooking the bay. You're ahead of me. Oh, don't you know? She dropped it and it ran all the way down the cliff into the bay. And we're watching horrified as the tide is like taking this little dog out to sea. And we ran down the hill and went over to the shore, stood at the shore, hoping the waves would bring that stuffed animal back. And Olivia was just apoplectic, she's just beside herself. And we noticed that there was a sort of a boat taxi, like a water taxi that was close by. And I can't remember whether it was me or Olivia. I really can't, who ran over to the guy who was at the water taxi and begged him, please go rescue the dog, And I think it's because he had children, so he understood how important this is and how important it is to the peace of the family, to do this. And so he did. He got in his boat, and he went out there and he rescued that little dog and brought it soaking wet back to her. He was her hero for the longest time. It's, and again, I'm sure you have a story or two to tell about that. And, it's what they ultimately discovered in those orphanages in Russia, that, they were providing all of what they considered their needs, taking care of their physical needs, food and shelter and clothing and warmth, but not love. In fact, there just really weren't enough staff to go around and spend time with the kids and hold them and love them, and more importantly, allow the children to love them. So they were deprived of this love, this opportunity to love, and they failed to thrive. We human beings, all of us, in order to thrive, we need an opportunity to love, because it's what we are. We're love expressing. We're love expressing. It is absolutely vital to our well-being. Okay, so now that we understand that, it's kind of simple. I mean, really, in order to live, to thrive, to feel connected with others, to feel connected with the world, we need to open to that infinite love within us and allow it to pour forth. We need to express it. We need to share it with others. Simple, right? What could go wrong? What could possibly prevent us from loving others, from being loving to others? Other people, right? Other people. I mean, really, if everyone was loving and kind and compassionate, like we are, if everyone thought like we did, if everyone was doing what we thought they should be doing, easy, piece of cake, no trouble at all. We would absolutely be willing to love others. But it's not always the case, is it? Sometimes far from it, because we all have a different view of life. We all, have different ideas about how things should be. We all come from different backgrounds, right? So that gives us different perspectives. And sometimes, vastly different perspectives. And on top of that, some people learn to hide their love and their kindness and their compassion by the time they go through grade school, because they've been hurt. It happens. And they don't want to, that hurts. And so they're protecting themselves. And some people hide it so well, you can't even tell it's there at all. But it is. It's there. It's there within all of us. And so these are the folks that we run into every day. And it's the people we work with. And it's the people we choose to have relationships with. Of course, again, we're perfect. We're always kind. We're always loving. We're always compassionate. We're the ones with the correct perspective, right? Everybody else that's wrong. No. We're all living in this crazy upside-down world. We're all under the influence of the collective unconscious that's asleep and dreaming this dream of separation and fear. We're all on this somewhat messy journey toward wholeness. And sometimes it looks like some people take a really circuitous route. Doesn't even look like they're on a path at all. You probably know one or two. We're all on a path. We are. We're all there. We're all on a path. So, you with me so far? Yes. So now that we recognize this, now we have the basis for being able to forgive others. And then we can get back to our natural state of being loving, our natural loving selves. This idea of forgiveness, I've talked many times here before that holding on to resentment is the thing that contributes the most to keeping us stuck in life. Our unwillingness to forgive others creates this toxic energy in our body, in our mind, in our soul. It blocks the flow of good in our lives. It kills our dreams. Is holding on to resentment. And even just little resentments, because they build up and they become toxic. And you ever notice that your unwillingness to forgive someone really doesn't affect them? It's not really about them. It's about us. It's that old saying, being unwilling to forgive someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Doesn't affect them. It's all about us. It's all about us. So, when we learn and practice the art of forgiveness, and it is an art, not a science. We practice the art of forgiveness. We are released from that heavy burden of resentment, and life begins to flow abundantly, and well-being begins to flow into our body. So before we go further, let's clarify what we mean by forgiveness, because I think, sometimes we're not all clear. We're not all on the same page of what forgiveness is, and we may not be so enthusiastic about doing it. So let's start with what forgiveness is not. So forgiveness is not condoning someone's hurtful behavior. Not giving a pass. It's not saying that's okay. Definitely not that. Forgiveness is not opening ourselves up to be hurt again. It's not inviting that person who's being abusive to us to stay with us. No. Forgiveness can and very often should be done at a distance. Again, nothing to do with them. It's us, right? Forgiveness is also not a recommendation to bury your feelings, to pretend we weren't really hurt at all, or to try to pray away our anger. In fact, the first step in the forgiveness process that I use is to own your feelings, to really own your feelings, to recognize the hurt and the sadness and the anger, and just let that be and learn to release that in a healthy way. Release that in a healthy way. And then come back. And come back. So forgiveness, finally, is not a way to absolve ourselves of responsibility. It's not about, oh, look how mature I am. Look how spiritual I am. I forgive you. And then not look at our own responsibility. Now, I'm not saying that there are not cases where people are absolutely the victim, that there was nothing that they did. That exists. So I'm not saying that. But in many cases, things that go on in our lives, areas we need to forgive, if we do some deep self-reflection, we can find something that how we contributed, even if there was something off in our thinking. And then once we own that, we can grow. We grow from that. We can practice self-forgiveness with ourselves, and we grow. And then we don't have to repeat that one again. That's gone. We've done that. We've grown now. All right, so what is forgiveness then? Forgiveness is really doing our best to realize that person is a fallible human being. Fallible spiritual being, having a very human experience, who has forgotten who he or she really is. Forgotten their oneness with Source, with their oneness with each other, and has acted from that place of unconsciousness. So the art of forgiveness is to do the best we can to separate out what someone has done from who they truly are. To separate out what someone has done, release that, history past, and then to view the true self of that person. That's what I love about your meditation. We all sort of got that experience of seeing that light, that shining light. That's what we want our prayer work to be. Let me see that true spiritual self of this person. And again, you don't have to contact them. There's no, you don't have to get together. You don't have to tell that person. You're just in your own space, seeing the spiritual truth of that person, separating out what they have done. And then moving on. And then that energy that was all locked up in that toxic stuff is now transmuted. And it's free to support us in more productive things. So Dr. Martin Luther King had a few wonderful things to say about forgiveness, as you might imagine. And one of them, he said, is, we must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. And I would add, we're more prone then to go back to our natural state of love, our natural loving selves. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that this is easy, particularly for the big offenders, right? Somebody who really has betrayed us. It's not easy. It's not. It's never a one and done kind of thing. Oh, I've forgiven them. No. It's a process. It's important to remember that forgiveness is a process. And I think that's why Jesus said that we're to forgive 70 times 7. I don't think he was being literal, like that's the number we had to follow. I think he's like giving us the idea that it's a process, it's a practice. Forgiveness is a practice that begins with a willingness. A willingness. That those big things like, I don't know, don't know if I could ever get there, but just start with a willingness. That begins at the turning. Just a willingness to forgive. And that starts the whole process. And then the end goal of complete forgiveness, we move closer to every time we practice. Every time we practice. And the other good thing about it is when we're practicing forgiveness, it really isn't just about us. We're actually contributing to the shift in the collective unconscious that makes it easier for others to forgive. Makes it easier for the world to forgive. And isn't that what the world needs now? Are you singing that one today? Love, sweet love? You good. Love and forgiveness. What the world needs now. We also want to keep in mind, too, when we're doing this, is that when we are practicing forgiveness, we're giving a gift to ourselves. It's a gift for us. We are opening the channels for the flow of the gifts of peace and well-being and joy and the fulfillment of our dreams. So there is a handout in your program that has this process. We don't have time to work on this today, but I want you to take it home. This comes from my Conscious Co-Creating program. Take it home, work on it, really give your heart and soul to it. You might want to choose to work with another person on it so you can support each other in this. And if you need more assistance, I'm there, I'm there to help you in this if you'd like. And know that every time we practice this art of what happened there? The art of forgiveness, we return to that true state of who we truly are. That spiritual state of being a loving being here to express and to be love in the world. Yes? Yeah. Namaste.